Hi, everyone. Hope you're feeling joyful and happy. Today, our theme will be the power of the mind and the power of decision. Yeah, we seem to decide for separation from God, and we can choose again and decide otherwise, decide for God. So, the workbook lesson, if you're doing the calendar year of workbook lessons, the workbook lesson for today is Lesson 238. On my decision, all salvation rests. And you start to see the power of the mind. The power of the mind, when you think of desire or prayer, you can come back to this deep experience of that this world was made by a desire for something more than everything or something more than God. And it is returned to our awareness by the acceptance of the atonement, of the correction that the Holy Spirit offered immediately to the belief in separation. So, talked a bit before about lesson 300 in the workbook, which basically says only an instant does this world endure. So the unholy instant was answered by the Holy Spirit in one instant, and that's the holy instant. And if you go to chapter 15 in the Course, Jesus begins giving us a pointing direction at the holy instant. He says, you can't prepare for it without placing it in the future, and it's not in the future, so you can only reach it by desiring it. So today's lesson is a step in the direction of accepting the correction. On my decision, all salvation rests. So I thought I would go through lesson 238 and then go back a little bit to another lesson that's very, very powerful. It's lesson 132. The power of decision is my own. And this is really showing us the power of the mind, and that everything we perceive as a problem, a challenge, a difficulty is all based on a faulty decision for the unholy instant. That's all it is. So, lesson 238, today's lesson for those of you doing the calendar year progression of lessons. On my decision, all salvation rests. Father, your trust in me has been so great, I must be worthy. You created me and know me as I am, and yet you placed your Son's salvation in my hands and let it rest on my decision. I must be beloved of you indeed, and I must be steadfast in holiness as well, that you would give your Son to me in certainty that he is safe, who still is part of you and yet is mine, because he is my Christ self. And so, again today, we pause to think how much our Father loves us and how dear his Son, created by his love, remains to him whose love is made complete in him. On my decision, all salvation rests. And from lesson 152 in the workbook of A Course in Miracles, the power of decision is my own. No one can suffer loss unless it be his own decision. No one suffers pain except his choice elects this state for him. No one can grieve, nor fear, nor think him sick, unless these are the outcomes that he wants. And no one dies without his own consent. Nothing occurs but represents your wish, and nothing is omitted you choose. Here is your world, complete in all details. Here is its whole reality for you, and it is only here salvation is. You may believe that this position is extreme and too inclusive to be true, yet can truth have exceptions? If you have the gift of everything, can loss be real? Can pain be part of peace or grief of joy? Can fear and sickness enter in a mind where love and perfect holiness abide? Truth must be all-inclusive if it be the truth at all. Accept no opposites and no exceptions, for to do so is to contradict the truth entirely. Salvation is the recognition that the truth is true and nothing else is true. This you have heard before, but may not yet accept both parts of it. Without the first, the second has no meaning, but without the second, is the first no longer true? Truth cannot have an opposite. This cannot be too often said and thought about. For if what is not true is true as well as what is true, then part of truth is false, and truth has lost its meaning. Nothing but the truth is true, and what is false is false. This is the simplest of distinctions, yet the most obscure, but not because it is a difficult distinction to perceive. It is concealed behind a vast array of choices that do not appear to be entirely your own, and thus the truth appears to have some aspects that belie consistency, but do not seem to be but contradictions introduced by you. As God created you, you must remain unchangeable, with transitory states by definition false. And that includes all shifts in feeling, alterations and conditions of the body and the mind, in all awareness and in all response. This is the all-inclusiveness which sets the truth apart from falsehood, and the false kept separate from the truth as what it is. Is it not strange that you believe to think you made the world you see as arrogance? God made it not. Of this you can be sure. What can he know of the ephemeral, the sinful and the guilty, the afraid, the suffering and lonely, and the mind that lives within a body that must die? You but accuse him of insanity to think he made a world where such things seem to have reality. He is not mad, yet only madness makes a world like this. To think that God made chaos, contradicts his will, invented opposites to truth, and suffers death to triumph over life, all this is arrogance. Humility would see at once these things are not of him. And can you see what God created not? To think you can is merely to believe you can perceive what God willed not to be. And what could be more arrogant than this? Let us today be truly humble and accept what we have made as what it is. The power of decision is our own. Decide but to accept your rightful place as co-creator of the universe, and all you think you made will disappear. What rises to awareness then will be all that there ever was eternally as it is now. And it will take the place of self-deceptions made but to usurp the altar to the Father and the Son. Today we practice true humility, abandoning the false pretense by which the ego seeks to prove it arrogant. Only the ego can be arrogant, but truth is humble in acknowledging its mightiness, its changelessness, and its eternal wholeness, all-encompassing, God's perfect gift to his beloved Son. We lay aside the arrogance which says that we are sinners, guilty and afraid, ashamed of what we are, and lift our hearts in true humility instead to him who has created us immaculate, like to himself in power and in love. The power of decision is our own, and we accept of him that which we are, and humbly recognize the Son of God. To recognize God's Son implies as well that all self-concepts have been laid aside and recognized as false. Their arrogance has been perceived, and in humility, the radiance of God's Son, his gentleness, his perfect sinlessness, his Father's love, his right to heaven, and release from hell are joyously accepted as our own. Now do we join in glad acknowledgement that lies are false and only truth is true. We think of truth alone as we arise and spend 5 minutes practicing its ways, encouraging our frightened minds with this: the power of decision is my own. This day I will accept myself as what my Father's will created me to be. Then we will wait in silence, giving up all self-deceptions as we humbly ask our Christ self that he reveal himself to us. And he who never left will come again to our awareness, grateful to restore his home to God as it was meant to be. In patience, wait for him throughout the day, and hourly invite him with the words with which the day began, concluding it with the same invitation to your Christ self. God's voice will answer, for he speaks for you and for your Father. He will substitute the peace of God for all your frantic thoughts, the truth of God for self-deceptions, and God's Son for your illusions of yourself. So my friend Elisa Amor has made a song out of the workbook lesson on my salvation. All salvation rest. So let's listen to that first. Thank you, Elisa.
On my decision, all salvation rests. Yeah, all salvation rests. On my decision, all salvation rests. On my decision, on my decision, on my decision, all salvation rests. Yeah, all salvation rests. On my decision, all salvation rests. On my decision, yep, on my decision. Your trust in me has been so great, I must be worthy. You created me, you know me as I am, and yet you placed your son's salvation in my hands and let it rest on my decision. I must be beloved of you indeed, and I must be steadfast in holiness as well, that you would give your son to me in certainty that he is safe, who is still a part of you, and yet is mine, because he is myself. On my decision, on my decision, all salvation rests. Yeah, all salvation rests. On my decision, all salvation rests. On my decision, on my decision. On my decision, all salvation rests. Yeah, all salvation rests. On my decision, all salvation rests. On my decision, on my decision. Father, your trust in me has been so great. I wasn't worthy. You created me and know me as I am, and yet you placed your son's salvation inside my hands and let it rest on my decision. I must be beloved of you indeed, and I must be steadfast in holiness as well, that you would give your son to me in certainty that he is safe and still a part of you, and yet he's mine because he is myself. Again today we pause to think how much a Father loves us, loves us, loves us. And how dear His Son, created by His love, remains to Him whose love is made complete. In Him. Father, your trust in me has been so great. Yeah. It has been so great, Father, your trust in me has been so great. I must be worthy. You created me and know me as I am, and yet you placed your son's salvation inside my hands and let it rest on my decision. I must be beloved of you indeed, And I must be steadfast in holiness as well, that you would give your son to me in certainty that he is safe, who's still a part of you and yet is mine. Because he is myself, my decision or salvation rests. Yeah, or salvation rests. On my decision or salvation rests. On my decision, on my decision, on my decision or salvation rests. Yeah, or salvation rests.
Beautiful. Takes today's lesson and puts it into a rap song with Elisa's beautiful voice. On my decision, all salvation rest. And from my friend Christopher Todd, yesterday, my friend Dale Crow was on the Mystical Christ Academy with Jason Morwick and with Jeffrey Kosker and the whole group on there, and how beautiful that was. And he talked about coming across the course and my teachings while he was in prison for 20 years, most of it in Chillicothe in Ohio, and then got deep into the teachings, realized that he was dealing with his own self-image, that everyone was reflecting his self-image to him, and got into forgiveness work and letting go, seeing that we're all the same one. And so my friend Christopher Todd has put together a song from that talk. From that talk, he actually sent me 2 songs today. And the first one is titled Prison Image Buster. And this is what the Holy Spirit is. It's the prison image buster in our mind. So let's take a look at that one.
Locked up in the cage of my mind, self-image chains that try to bind. Thought acceptance was wanting you to like me, but that craving was never my reality. Not here to leave prison, a better criminal. Original innocence is not minimal. Spirit was never at stake. I created it whole. The ego's illusion never touched my soul. Money, power, steam, ego's limitation tools taught me to play by survival's rules. But I'm the architect of this bullying scheme. Time to wake up from the nightmare dream. Reflection of my whole self inside. No more hiding, I step into the light. Peace and joy flow when I let it be. The prison breaks open inside of me. The bully exposed was always myself, projecting shame from a dusty shelf. But when I extend peace, love, and joy, but image maker loses its toy. Jesus' essence present so still, not an idol, but the symbol of will. To recognize I am the atonement true, continual awareness in all I do. Pain, hurt, let it burn. It was never real. Only truth remains, only love I feel. From prison image maker to freedom song, I was innocent already, all along. No superiority, no inferiority's claim. All worth established by God's holy scars remain. Prison but still free, only love sustains.
Beautiful. Thank you, Christopher. And our next song is part of the title I put for this live. It's called Essence of Presence. It fits perfectly with our lesson on my salvation. On my decision, all salvation depends. On my decision, all salvation rests. This is Essence of Presence.
Yeah. Speak from essence, be here and now. No mask to wear, no need to bow. Presence remains when the ego fades. A holy light the spirit made. God did not create the ego stick. Spirit untouched, it will not break. Essence eternal, not bound by time. Presence is truth forever mine. Self-concept falls, the image weak. But essence shines when spirit speaks. Not locked in cages of thought untrue. Presence reveals what's always new. Money, power, esteem, decay. They cannot guide or show the way. Survival's tools dissolve to dust. Presence alone is where I trust. Acceptance sought in another's eye. Wanting your praise was just a lie. True worth is set by God above. Presence returns me back to love. When hurt appears and pain is near, presence reminds it's never here. A recognition, a gentle flame. Essence remembers my holy name. Atonement whispers, quiet and still. Continual I am fulfills God's will. No projection of shame, no fear to defend. Presence extends, no limit, no end. Jesus, a symbol of essence bright. Equal in spirit, equal in light. Essence of presence, nothing to hide. In God's reflection, I abide.
Beautiful. So we're talking about the power of the mind today. We're talking about the power of decision. And Jesus reminds us, he actually reminds us throughout the texts about the power of our mind and the power of our decision. In chapter 4, he says, "The Holy One shares my trust and accepts my atonement decisions because my will is never out of accord with his." Chapter 5, "It was only my decision that gave me all power in heaven and earth." This is Jesus speaking. Chapter 5, "My only gift to you is to help you make the same decision. When you are tempted by the wrong voice, call on me to remind you how to heal by sharing my decision and making it stronger. I do not feel guilty because the Holy Spirit will undo all consequences of my wrong decision if I will let him. I have already told you that you can always call on me to share my decision and thus make it stronger. I am sorry when my brothers do not share my decision to hear only one voice, because it weakens them as teachers and as learners. My will is his, and your decision to hear me is the decision to hear his voice and abide in his will. Without choice, you could not be healed because you would have decided against healing, and this rejection of my decision for you makes healing impossible." Jesus speaking, "My decision cannot overcome yours because yours is as powerful as mine. I can offer my strength to make yours invincible, but I cannot oppose your decision without competing with it and thereby violating God's will for you. Therefore, your decision is always an answer to the question, 'Who is my Father?' As it was my decision, so is it yours." Beautiful. So here we are, we're using the power of our mind to make a decision for God, moment by moment, choosing the joy of heaven instead of the distortions and pain and suffering of error. We're choosing the Holy Spirit and the right mind instead of the guilt and fear and pain and all the shame of the wrong mind, the wrong-minded decision. So we make that choice again today. We practice. On my decision, all salvation rests. And if you would like to join in our Mystical Christ Academy, I have a link below in the description. We're on the second week. We've just begun the second full week. And actually, we're kind of moving through the week pretty quickly here. But today at 9 a.m., I'm coming up very quickly in about 20 minutes or so, 23 minutes. I'm going to do what I'm calling happy hour, just answering prayers and questions and reading prayers and joining with the whole group of 68 participants from around the world in the Mystical Christ Academy. So if you still would like to be a part of it, we go for 4 weeks. We're going in through September, and we're just wrapping up some sessions here this week at the end of August, but then we'll roll on into September. It's deep. And if you miss the live event, these 4 weeks, then you can always sign up. And we have a couple of our Mystical Christ Academies already online, another one soon to be released, and also one we're doing live right now. So yeah, it's deep dive into the teachings of Jesus in A Course in Miracles and the practical application of the teachings. The most important thing, I always say at Spiritual Awakening, is 1% principle and 99% practice. So It's important to practice. And your brothers and your sisters and your mighty companions are just cheerleaders. They're reminders from the Holy Spirit of the direction you're moving in, of the goal you would achieve, and of the decision that you would make to accept the atonement and join Jesus in that acceptance for the resurrection of the mind, for freedom of the mind, and letting go of all error. Sometimes it goes by the name of sin, but it's an error to be corrected. It has already been corrected by the Holy Spirit, and now the mind training is for accepting the correction that the Holy Spirit has offered freely. Since time seemed to begin, the Holy Spirit's answer has been there to bring us happiness and joy and love and inner freedom, lining up with the will of God and knowing the will of God as our own will, as our Christ self, our true identity. So, have a beautiful day. Shine your love. Share your heart. Shine your light. Be the light of the world.